Welcome back to the modelme podcast. My name's Natasha. If we've never met before, I'm super excited to share some things with you today and actually have intentionally created this podcast as a kind of warm up to an event that we've got up next week. So next week on the 5th of December at Fujifilm in Covent Garden, we are doing an event called Your Year in Review. Now, it's really important to do a year in review because I think otherwise so often what can happen is we can feel like we fumble into the new year and that we've not really even reflected on all of the incredible things that have happened in our life in the last 12 months. And I know what you're thinking. Some of you are sat there going, girl, I haven't had a good 12 months. I haven't had an incredible year. And I'm going to be really honest with you and say that I have also had a really challenging year. And there have been many things this year that I wished going through it was not going through it. But now I'm kind of at the back end of some of those things and still definitely in a process. I can definitely sit here and say I'm so grateful that I've walked through some things because of the way that it's helped me develop my character, first and foremost. But I also believe that when you go through hard things, you really start to understand more about yourself and you really start to define actually more about your identity. And the reality is, if you don't go through hard things in your life, then I don't know if you don't face adversity that there's a lack of strength that I think you miss out on growing in. And there's an opportunity in order for you to help other people. And you know, if you know me, you'll know this, but I really want to help people know who they are with their identity, but also develop more in their life and feel more confident in who they are. And I think when I go through something challenging, now, heads up, not normally on day 1, 2, 3 or 4, and certainly probably not even on week 2, but when I start to get to like the back end of a challenge or the back end of like what has felt like a fight, I sit there and I think, wow, I'm so grateful that I've been able to have even the opportunity, I sometimes call it, which I know is so weird, but I am quite an opportunist person. And I think, wow, like I'm going to be able to help somebody with that. So this year I've walked through certain things in relationships in my life. And so now I know going forward, there are certain things that I'll be able to support and help somebody else in. And I think that really is life. If I think about the close friends that I have in my life and I think about it, it's so funny because today I'm actually shooting in my friend's Bexy's beauty bar. And as she was doing my lashes this morning, we were talking about parenting. And I always think how grateful I am that I have friends around me who I'm really close with who are parents, because honestly, that's like, I just feel like parents are bionic. Like, I don't know if any of you have got parents who are friends, but they can just deal off no sleep and they can deal with these changes happening in their life and their kids' life. And it's just crazy. Like the way I look at some of my mum friends and the schedules that they run for their whole family. And I only have to run my schedule right now. And so I think that we can take so much learning from other people. And it's really interesting because one of the biggest things we spoke about at an event we were running on Monday, which was all about burnout, is how important it is to have community around you. And it's actually something I've been thinking about a lot recently because of certain things I've been watching, but also walking through in my own life. And something I watched on the weekend was this amazing community panel discussion, which was from a conference called Acts 242. So I really highly recommend you go and watch this video that I'm sharing, and I'll put the link in the bio, because they were talking about how community is so messy. And I sat there and I listened to what they were saying, and I thought, that is the truth. But I do really believe that God calls us to live in community, and that sometimes we have to be okay with that. Some people are growing and they're changing. And as people are growing and changing, sometimes it's going to look a bit messy and it's going to be a bit uncomfortable. But as we would hope that we would have grace from people while we grow and we go through change, I also believe we need to remind ourselves to extend that grace to other people. And as much as I'm also saying community is messy, it's also a really beautiful thing. And I actually think that we're designed to live in community. And I feel something we spoke a lot about on Monday at our event with burnout was really about how people so often think it's easier and better for them if they just live life by themselves and if they isolate themselves from other people. And the reality is, we live in a world today where it's not sold as a negative thing, it's sold as an extremely positive thing, especially if you're a woman, that you should be an independent woman and you don't need anybody around you. You don't need a man, you don't need your family, you can do everything by yourself. And it's actually so destructive, and it really, I feel quite alarmed, to be honest with you, and passionate about this because it really concerns me. I have 3 young nieces. I also have lots of friends with kids who are girls. And I think, wow, what is the world that they are growing up in? And I think about the world that I grew up in. You know, my mom was a single mom. I have 3 sisters, a cousin that's a girl that lived with me for years. My gran and granddad were together till, my granddad's recently passed away a couple of years ago, but, you know, my gran and granddad were together, and my gran is a very strong woman. Like, she's Norwegian, and, you know, I have just always thought that Norwegian women are incredibly strong and blunt and brave, because that is my gran, and super direct, like tells you the truth. And I'm actually really thankful for those things that she's taught me over the years, because now more than ever, I want to be someone that can tell the truth, even if it hurts. And I also want to receive that truth, even if it hurts, because I actually think there's in love, I want to say there's truth in love, but also I think there's love in truth. And so I don't want to be around people that, you know, fabricate things and don't tell me the truth because they think it's going to hurt me. If I've done something wrong, I want to know what that thing is, so I can go and look at myself in the mirror and I can say, okay, what do I need to change about myself? And, you know, going back to this whole community thing, it's also really important. Something I've asked myself this weekend is about being a peacekeeper. So the Bible calls us to be peacekeepers. And, you know, you watching this, you might be like, you know, Tash, I've never read the Bible, and I know I'm not a Christian. You don't have to be a Christian to hear some things that I'm saying, because I actually really think that the Bible is such an incredible book for us to read, to learn about ourselves, whether you believe in God or not. And I can certainly say that I started reading the Bible not really knowing who Jesus was, not really understanding many things about God. And it really helped me learn about myself first and foremost, but also learn about God and learn about how to live life. And I just want to challenge you on that. Like, try some of the principles that the Bible has and see how it works out in your life. Even my boyfriend talks often about how, you know, he did life one way and now he's doing life the Bible way. And it's just so amazing how it can really teach you things. And in Matthew 5:9, I'll share the scriptures in case there's anyone watching that does know where to look that up. Matthew 5:9 says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God." And so I have to ask myself this question, that if I am called to be a peacekeeper, have I done everything in my power to keep the peace? And that might be in my business, that might be in my relationships, it could be in my family. And I'm challenged with that. Like, I'll be really honest with you. I've had to sit with myself and say, okay, like, do I need to have a conversation? Is there a certain level of healing that I need to go and walk in? Do I need to go and press into the mentoring leaders I've got around me and make sure that I'm accountable to how I'm feeling in this moment? Because I think it's really, really vital that we surround ourselves with people that would want to help us and tell us the truth, like I said, truth in love, but also be willing to walk us through those times where we feel like we're stuck in the mud. And I think that there's an isolation that's happening in people today, and I really do believe it's just a work of the devil. He just wants to keep you by yourself, because if you're not in community, I mean, you're just going to cast off completely restraint, doing all sorts of madness. And the beautiful thing about being in community is when you have the right people around you that really truly love you, they can help you set on the right track. And I think that we have to allow ourselves to actually believe that there's good in people, because I know that so many of us have been hurt by people in the past, and you might be sitting there thinking, I don't know how I would even begin to find a friend. And I mean, I could definitely sit here and shamelessly plug Model Me and say, come to Model Me and find a friend. And that is actually the truth. I have found many of my friends through my own business, which is an actual miracle, to be honest. I think it's such a blessing that someone would turn up, see Model Me on Eventbrite and turn up and end up being one of my friends. Like, that is just the coolest thing. But I also think you've got to ask yourself, you know, if you want healthy relationships, this is something I also heard from the community panel. If you want healthy relationships, you first have to be healthy. And I think I want to share that with you because I am asking myself that. what areas of my life maybe aren't so healthy? What is the garden of my soul, the garden of my mind, that perhaps needs a little more tending to? And I love this analogy of a garden because I think what we have to realize about ourselves is that we're always growing, but also sometimes there are certain areas of our life that are going to need more water than others. And I also believe the same way that if you were going to cut down a tree and you were going to do some serious pruning, let's say in the forest part of your garden, you probably wouldn't be able to cut that down on your own. And so I really want to encourage you that actually in many areas of your life, you need people and you can't do this life by yourself. And I really I want to come so hard against that because I know we live in this world that wants to tell you something quite different to that. But it's really important that we live in community even when it's hard. So I know I love to talk so much about community, but I also want to share with you really, I suppose, a lot of the things we spoke about our event on Monday. But as we think about reflecting on our 2024 and we stepping into this next new year, one of the things that I really honor and really prioritize in my life is rest. And this is kind of something that I have really, I suppose I'm on a journey with. I definitely don't always prioritize my rest as much as I would like. And that is something I always end up telling myself off for because it ends up coming out in different ways that I can just see quite quickly. It might be my emotions, or I might be shorter with someone than I want to be, or I might just be feeling a little bit fed up. And I have I'm really blessed. I have a great life. I quit my jobs end of last year and I decided to go rogue and go full-time business. And, you know, it has been the most roller coaster year of my life, no doubt. But it's been the most exciting year. And God has been so good to me that where I've had really hard moments and I felt like I've been in the pit, God has blessed me with different opportunities. And it's as if he's like been trying to tell me, you're on the right path. You're going where I need you to go. Like, don't worry about it. Because, you know, sometimes when you're in the pit, you're kind of like, really? Am I even doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And you can start to question everything. But God has been so good to me that he has blessed me through different opportunities, different conversations, different relationships that have birthed out of nowhere, really. But it has been in times where I've been in a really hard place, and especially mentally a hard place, which, you know, it's so easy, isn't it, to put on a mask and pretend that you're completely fine. And that's why community is so important, because as you journey with a person and you develop deeper relationships, a person can know very quickly, you know, how you really are. Like I could name multiple people in my life who very quickly can just be like, how are you really? And cut through the noise and cut through the mask that I might be wearing that day. And so one of the things that I think is really important for us to consider as we step into 2025, obviously community, but another thing is rest, and really thinking about if that's a priority in your life. And if it's not a priority in your life, what can you do to make that a priority? Because, you know, I could, you know, go back to even like the beginning of how I believe the world was made, which is in Genesis, where obviously God creates the world in 6 days and then he rests on the seventh. And I kind of have a running joke with myself sometimes where I say, you know, if God could take a rest on the seventh day, then why do I think that I need to work 7 days a week? And there's a scripture that actually talks about how the Sabbath was made to meet the needs of people and not people to meet the requirements of the Sabbath. And I find that so interesting because we often so think, you know, that we can be bionic and we can just run 100 miles per hour. We can just go nonstop. And actually, you can do that for a season. I've tried. I certainly still try to make that some things I can just go nonstop. But eventually things catch up to you. And I do believe that, I don't know if I love the word balance, and I try and avoid that word, but I love the word cadence, this idea of having a rhythm in your life, that sometimes you're going to have seasonal moments where the rhythm is non-stop. You know, my sister just had a baby, and, you know, having a newborn is a completely different season of life that brings a very different pace all of a sudden, whether you've got children in the house already or you don't. And so we spoke a lot about that on Monday at our burnout event, about how different life is when you step into being a parent. And I'm not a parent yet. I'm only looking from a second-hand view with people around me and thinking, okay, right, that pace is really different. But there might be other times in your life where, like, you might have quit your job like me, and you might be saying, I'm going to go full throttle on my business and I'm going to put everything into this. And there are things that I have had to sacrifice this year. There are certain social activities that I've sacrificed this year. I have not done certain things in evenings so that I can work through on my business. Even in recent weeks, I have been working till late at night, many nights, and getting up early some days when I've had to get up early. And, it isn't ideal, but it's seasonal. And there's a cadence of rest still in my life, even in those seasonal moments. So I try and always have a day off a week. And when that doesn't happen, I try and have more rest in between different moments. And I just try to be very conscious because I really believe that actually I need to learn that I can't just be a robot and work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week and expect everything in my life to be thriving. If I want to be successful in my life, and this is something someone was speaking about on Monday, is that definition of success. How do you define success? Because actually what the world defines as success is extremely different to maybe what God might define as success. And so when I look at my life and I think, okay, I want my life to be pleasing to the Lord. I want my life to be pleasing to Him, not to the world, but to Him. And so I have had to reprogram and reframe how I see success. And I'll be really honest with you, there are certain areas of my life where I'm still working on because I definitely don't have it down. And I have to ask myself, okay, what does success look like? And success to me is I want fruitful relationships. I want deep, deep relationships with really, really strong connections in them. I want them to be fruitful. I want to be a friend that people can rely on. So that means there is a level of availability that I have. So my phone is always on Do Not Disturb. Always. It literally never comes off it unless there's like a special occasion happening. If I'm running an event, then I might take my phone off Do Not Disturb. But as soon as the event starts, especially if I'm facilitating and doing the workshop, my phone is on Do Not Disturb. But I have quite a long list of favorites on there because I have an important group of people who I want them to know, no matter what is happening in my life, you can always contact me. And I think, even I've had it happen a couple of times at a workshop, but most of the time the workshop, it doesn't happen then. And I think that's just a matter of priority, right? And that's really, for me, that's a mix between boundaries and prioritization. And then looking at the schedule of how I want to, I suppose, live and lead my life. And I just think it's really important to think about that as we step into the new year. Like, what are the areas of your life that, I'm on my phone a lot. And so I like it being on Do Not Disturb because most of the time I'm checking my phone anyway. So I don't really miss anything. And it means I don't get any dodgy phone calls, which I don't even know how these people get my number, but I don't get any dodgy phone calls. And it also means that I'm not interrupted by any notifications. And that's just how I've ended up living my life, and I really like it that way. And so when I don't have my phone on Do Not Disturb, honestly, I don't love it. But sometimes you got to do those things, And it's just interesting because success to me is not being available all the time. Like, actually, success is being available to certain people, but not to every single person. And when you think about success and when you step into 2025, you might start to look at your life and go, do you know what? I am chasing my tail. I feel like I'm living in a rat race. And so I would encourage you to think about how you can start to put rest in your life. But you might be someone who, like me, really struggled at the beginning to take a day off. I love a lie-in, but I struggled to do nothing for a day. I struggled to just think, how am I going to spend my day with the Lord today? And so I just want to encourage you that it's going to sometimes be incremental little changes that you put into your life. So one thing I've discussed with people is maybe putting in a 2-hour rest. And you say for those 2 hours, maybe you're going to be radical and switch off your phone. Or maybe you're going to go on a 2-hour walk. So I try to go for a walk nearly every day now, and I've actually just reincorporated not being on my phone whatsoever. I don't listen to anything anyway, but what I noticed in the last few weeks is if someone wanted to have a meeting first thing, or I was going to catch up with a friend, sometimes it would slip into doing it on those walks. And actually, I've realized those walks really are sacred for me. They're a time where I can pray, but also just really be quiet and enjoy. I live in London, but I'm really blessed. I live in a really beautiful neighborhood that I can just walk around and be totally undisturbed. And you just see, lately I've seen people sweeping the streets with the leaves. There's a lot of like house renovations going on, but there's a real quietness to how I start my day. And I think when you have lots of different things happening, it could be personally with your business, emotionally even, it's so important how you start your day. And I can be really guilty of forgetting how important it is to start your day. But I'm grateful because in the last 9 weeks, I've been back on my morning walks and they actually have really made a difference. And the other week I was toying with the idea of if I would go. I love Portugal and one of my friends lives there as well. So I stayed in a place near to where she was. But I've been there a few times now and I just love Portugal, and the pace of that place is so different. And it makes me come back to London, and in many ways I want to come back to London and I'm like, right, make the most out of where you live. You're probably not going to live in London forever, so just make the most out of where you live, enjoy it, run that race, do whatever you need to do while you're in this city. Because there are a lot of things here that are beautiful. I feel like your business can blossom in London. I feel like I can't go, even maybe in West London, maybe I can stay here and not kind of have too many conversations. But at the same time, I love people and I love a chat. I love talking to someone new. And I find if I go to Soho, Shoreditch, if I'm in White City or South London, I'm finding people to talk to. There's opportunities that are brewing, people that want to connect. They want to, oh my gosh, I want to come to your event, or oh my gosh, I've been looking for a mentor. And those conversations, they just happen for me. It's just very natural and it just is thriving. Whereas I don't know if living in Portugal in this really cute surf town that I stay in that's right by the beach, I don't know if those same conversations happen in the same way that they do in London. And that's because culturally this city is just constantly bursting. It feels like there's so much happening at one time here. And so I want to encourage you, if you live in London, make the most out of where you live. I know it's really nice and cozy to work from home all the time, but it's really, really important that we embrace where we are in this moment. And what I love about Portugal, I feel so privileged that I got to go on holiday. There are many months this year where I would never have been able to go on holiday. And on my way home, and I was on the plane, and I bought a bag of crisps, and I thought, wow, I'm so privileged. I got to buy crisps on the airplane are not cheap. There was I think it was €2.40. And I was just really peckish and I was enjoying my Netflix sports documentary. I don't really watch much TV, but I do love a sports doc. And I've been watching The Receiver. And it's just so exciting. And it's extremely American. And I love it. It's so good. And I was buying these crisps and I thought, wow, what a privilege that I, one, have got to go on holiday. And two, had the money to go on holiday. And three, been able to buy a bag of crisps on the plane. And it just... I know that sounds maybe to some of you such a silly thing, but actually it's huge. Not everybody gets to go away like that. And I only booked my trip literally 2 weeks before I was going to go. And I'd had it in my diary as kind of what do you call those things? A placeholder. But yeah, no, I was so glad that I went and really just didn't do a lot. I just really rested. I really just took time to slow down. And as I was there, I realised, wow, my life in London is insane. It is so busy. My schedule's rammed. And at the same time, I'm not complaining about that. I've chosen it to be that way. And that's why when I'm in London, it's very important that I get the rest that I do, because the rest of the week is just busy. And it's good busy. It's not bad busy. I dictate it. I literally get to choose my every day. This time a year ago, I was working for someone else 4 days a week. My schedule was extremely limited on the playtime that I had, the social time that I got to do. And I remember even saying to my friends 2 years ago, when I took on this extra job to be an event manager, I remember verbally saying to my friends, I might not be around for the next couple months, but I need to do this job because it's going to take me places with my career. And it definitely has, but you have to get to a place sometimes where how can I say it? You have to actually say, you know what? It's okay. I'm going to do this for my career. I'm going to grow in this area. And my relationships, as long as I feel quite strongly about communicating with your friends about that. And I'm blessed. I've got friends that understood it. They were like, go, do it. We're here. And I actually still feel like I did get to see my friends a bit here and there, but definitely not as much as I kind of, I suppose, did afterwards. And so this year I've really tried to prioritize that where I've had more time to do so. So 2025, what do you need to let go of? So one of the things that I really wanted to ask in this podcast, and I suppose this is what I'll say to really wrap up as we step into the next year, is what is it that you need to let go of? What is the baggage that you're carrying? What are the suitcases full of maybe emotions or unfinished conversations or unfinished thoughts? What are those things that you're carrying around that you need to let go? And when I was studying in the Bible, it says in Psalm 55:22, cast your burden onto the Lord and he shall sustain you, and he shall never permit the righteous to be moved. And then 1 Peter 5:6 says, therefore humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time, casting all your care upon him, for he cares about you. And I think it's so important that we know we don't have to live this life by ourselves, that you can cast your burdens onto God and that he can walk you through and help you through whatever it is that you are going through. And I know that that sounds maybe to some of you like, I don't really quite understand that. But how I understand it is this. What is it that do I feel that I'm carrying as heavy weights on my shoulders? What are the big bricks that I'm holding over my head that I really feel like are just really weighing me down? They're holding me back from where I want to go to. Because the reality is, if you're thinking about running your race, right? If you're thinking about being on the track of where you believe you're supposed to be doing your life, where your purpose is taking you, where your calling is taking you, you have to really think about this, that if you are carrying like a rucksack with bricks in it, how far and how fast are you going to be able to run? And so many of us are carrying around things that we don't need to be carrying around. And I really wanted to discuss this because I do think it's a perfect opportunity to sit and reflect at the end of the year and say, what do I need to let go of? And it could be that you might need to have a conversation. It could be that you need to let someone know, actually, I really love you and I'm really sorry about some of the things that happened this year. And I think it's really hard to sometimes humble yourself and apologize, but there is a real strength in vulnerability. And I really think it's so important as we step into 2025 that, I love this scripture that talks about focusing ahead. Philippians 3:13 says, forgetting the past and looking forward to what lies ahead, I press on to reach the end of the race and receive the heavenly prize for which God through Christ Jesus is calling us. And I think that's so important, forgetting the past and looking forward to what lies ahead. What do you need to forget this year? What do you need to focus your eyes on? And I know that sometimes that's hard, but I'm not saying it from a place of just forget about it and move on. I'm saying it from a place of what do you need to heal? What do you need to close? What chapter is still kind of like running wild that you kind of maybe need to, going back to what I said before, be a peacemaker in? Where can you be a peacemaker? And it might mean humbling yourself. It might mean saying sorry, even when maybe you don't want to say sorry. And it might mean going to find counsel. It might mean going to find wisdom in mentors, in your best friend, and saying, I really need you to be honest with me. Where did I go wrong in this area? And they're hard conversations to have. I have had them this year and they are not easy. But I'm very grateful for the challenge that it has given me on my character, for the way that I have grown in ways that I didn't even expect to grow this year. But it's really important that, I think it's really important that we try and live peaceably. I love it in Romans. It talks about, if it is possible, as much as depends on you, live peaceably with all men. I want to live peaceably. I want to make sure that the wrongdoings, the things that I have done, that I can say, okay, I'm going to go and work on those parts of my character. I'm going to go and really try and work that out maybe with someone else. I definitely feel like I've been working out things with God, but I've also been leaning on certain mentors and counsel to really help me work through certain processes, because I am not naive enough to think I can do this by myself. I'm not strong enough, I'm not brave enough, and I don't have it all together. And it's not weak to admit that. I actually think there's courage in admitting that for yourself. And so as we finish 2025, and as I think about what we're going to do in our event next week, I just wanted to share a few things that we're going to be talking about. So we are going to be talking about 3 different key areas. I've broken the workshop down in 3 areas. I thought I'd give you a bit of a heads up so that you thinking, maybe I need to get to that event, you're going to have a bit of an idea of what's going to go down. So in this podcast, I really wanted to just make sure that I could start reflecting on my year with you and talking about the things that have been really pivotal, like rest and community in my life. And as I'm stepping into 2025, I definitely want to keep holding them as priority. But there are things that I've had to accept in myself that I'm in a process. I'm still in a process in certain areas. And actually, believe it or not, I have grown in knowing that the things I'm processing right now, I don't share in live time. So it might be 6 months, it might be 12 months, it might be 2 months that I end up sharing some of the things that I've actually been walking through this year, that I'm actually still walking through. And I really believe that there's wisdom in that, because it's important not to process online with everybody all the time. You really need to just walk through some things with some really close people and know that you don't need to do everything online. Like I used to overshare like crazy, but I don't do that anymore because I've learned. So next week's event, we're going to be talking about reflection first. And that will be the things where we're going to reflect on our goals. We're going to be reflecting on what things were good that happened, what things were bad, how we dealt with our disappointments, things that we were proud of, our relationships and how they impacted us. As you can tell, I love talking about that stuff and I think it's pivotal to our lives. So I really make sure we focus on that. And also thinking about habits. What habits grew this year in us? What habits maybe kind of fell off track a little bit? What are the things we want to relook at next year? And so I'm going to be going deeper into those questions with our group. Then we're going to be talking about recharge, which is really thinking about healing, and talking about how you can guard your heart, but not put it behind a wall. And this is something I have had to really learn this year and still have to be checked on, because I know what my natural tendency is to do. Then we've got something really special we're going to talk about in that recharge section, because it's a really important thing that we do. You know, we've really got to make sure we recharge ourselves so we go into 2025 feeling really ready to actually conquer what we want to do and set down that vision. And so we're going to be talking about renewing. So in January, I will be doing an event on vision and goal setting. But I really wanted to talk about renewing. How do we renew our minds? How do we renew where we're at right now? What are the thought patterns that perhaps we need to look at as we finish the year? And I also think it would be really important for us to talk about vision and our expectations, what we're hoping for. And it's going to be really powerful. I've got lots of different workshop activities that we're going to be doing as a group, small groups, but also as a big group all together. And I'm just so excited because we're actually going to be doing it at Fujifilm. And Fujifilm have kitted out their store like you would never believe. It is a Christmas grotto theme. It is so beautiful. So we're also going to give you the opportunity to take lots of beautiful Christmas photos, and you can even print them there on the day. And we're going to be making baubles. So Christmas baubles that you can put photos in, that's going to be part of your ticket fee. And you can either gift them to someone or you can keep it to cherish for yourself. So I thought, because it's Christmas, let's go crazy. Let's do gift making for ourselves or for someone else, but also feel really, really grateful to Fujifilm that we're getting to do it in, the beautiful store of Fujifilm that is just, honestly, it's magical. Like I'll show you some pictures on this video and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So I hope that you can make next week. And if you can't, but you'd like to attend, please send me a message. I'll pop my email down below, or you can obviously just find us on Instagram and send us a message, because we will be filming the workshop and we will be putting it on our on-demand platform, and we'll be putting that live very soon. And I'll try and do that before the end of the year so that you guys can really actually do that on-demand workshop and really think about what that looks like. Okay. Thank you so much for watching our podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helped you. I hope that something I said really helped you think about, you need to be kind and gracious to yourself as you're going through a process and as you're going through change in your life, but also do the brave thing and take a long look in the mirror and ask yourself, what is it that I could change about myself to make me a better friend, to make me a better businesswoman? Because that's what this is about, right? It's about being better, not just for you, but for actually all the people around you as well. Okay, guys, thank you so much.